Well, Eric Stakelbeck is the host of The Watchman Show, airing weekly on TBN and the Fox Business Network. And Eric, it's good to see you again.
Good to be with you, John.
Eric, we know that you were in Iraq with the Kurds last month. How do you see all of this? Is America abandoning its allies by withdrawing our forces in Syria?
Yeah, John, I think there's no other way but to see it that way, that we have abandoned the Kurds in Syria. And John, think about it. Look, the Kurds lost at least 10,000 fighters fighting against ISIS, not only on their behalf, but on our behalf, with the help, of course, of American air support. But the Kurds were the tip of the spear on the ground fighting against ISIS, who is obviously a sworn enemy of America. As you mentioned, John, I was with the Iraqi Kurds just last month. That's kind of their cousins across the border there in Syria who are being assaulted right now by the forces of Turkey. But the Iraqi Kurds made clear time and time again that, hey, we want to grow this alliance with America. They were very appreciative of President Trump and his commitment to crushing that ISIS caliphate. Now, John, I'm getting text messages and emails from the Kurds I was with just about 4 weeks ago, the Peshmerga, the Kurdish fighters there, saying, what is happening? What happened to America? Why are you abandoning us? So I think it sets a bad precedent, John, not only for our allies in the region, like the Kurds, like Israel also, but it emboldens our enemies, like Russia, like Bashar al-Assad, like the Iranians, like ISIS. And yes, although he is a NATO member, Recep Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is not a friend of the United States.
Syria, of course, you kind of mentioned this, is working with Russia to protect the Kurds there behind all of this. Eric, talk about how this potentially fuels a much broader Middle East war.
Yeah, Jenna, I think it's a great question. I think it comes down to Iran, to be honest with you, because those U.S. troops there, about 1,000 in all, about 50 or so near the Turkish border, but about 1,000 in all in Syria. President Trump announced just last night he's withdrawing all U.S. troops from Syria. What they did, Jenna, was they kind of provided a buffer between Iran and the Mediterranean, because the Iranian regime's goal is to establish a land corridor stretching from Iran through Iraq, through Syria, through Lebanon, onto the Mediterranean, guess where? At Israel's doorstep. Now, with no U.S. troop presence there, the Iranians have free rein. They can form that corridor, which will allow them to further bolster their presence on Israel's northern borders, not only in Lebanon, but in Syria. And there is this alliance budding as well between Turkey, Iran, and Russia, something to keep an eye on for sure.
Eric, I know from working with you for years and also from watching your show, you see things through a biblical lens. Is this in any way fulfilling biblical prophecy here?
Well, a lot of people, John, are pointing to Ezekiel 38 and 39, the war of Gog and Magog. They see that alliance shaping up between Russia and Iran and Turkey, three nations that seem to be mentioned. We all have different interpretations of biblical prophecy, but Turkey, Russia, Iran seem to be mentioned in that Gog and Magog coalition force, John. And it's so interesting because these nations have historically not been allies. They've actually fought wars against each other in the past. Now, in these interesting times in which we live, we see Russia, Iran, and Turkey coming together at Israel's doorstep.
All right, Eric Stakelbeck, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Eric.